The champagne tasted like liquid diamonds and regret. I stood at the edge of the Harrington ballroom, my fingers wrapped too tightly around the crystal flute, watching the chandeliers scatter light across 300 faces I didn't recognize. The gown I wore cost more than my mother's hospital bills, a fact that made my stomach turn every time I caught my reflection in the gilded mirrors. Navy silk. Off the shoulder. A slit that climbed my thigh like a whispered accusation. Gold digger. I heard it before I saw who said it. Two women near the ice sculpture, their diamond earrings catching the light as they leaned toward each other. One of them glanced at me, then away, as if I were something unpleasant tracked in on someone's shoe. She came out of nowhere, the taller one murmured. No family, no connections. And suddenly she's wearing Marchetti sapphires? The sapphires in question hung cold against my collarbone. I hadn't wanted to wear them. I'd begged, actually. You'll wear them? His voice echoed in my memory. Low. Final. The way he said everything. I took another sip of champagne and let it burn. 3 years. 3 years of this life. And I still felt like a fraud standing in someone else's shoes. Maybe because I was. Maybe because every morning I woke up in that penthouse with its cold marble floors and colder silences. I wondered how long before everyone realized the truth. That I wasn't his wife. I was his prisoner. The orchestra shifted into something slower, more melancholic, and I felt the air in the room change. Conversations dimmed. Heads turned. The kind of collective attention that happens when someone important enters a space, someone dangerous enough that even the wealthy remember to be afraid. Dante Marchetti. I didn't need to look to know he was there. I felt him the way you feel, a storm approaching, pressure dropping, electricity crawling across skin. But I looked anyway. He moved through the crowd like a blade through water. His black tuxedo cut so precisely it seemed designed to make other men look unfinished. Dark hair pushed back from a face that belonged on a Renaissance painting of something cruel, high cheekbones, a jaw carved from contempt, and eyes the color of aged whiskey that missed nothing. Those eyes found me across the room. My heart stuttered, then hardened. 3 years, and I still couldn't look at him without feeling that war inside my chest, the part of me that wanted to run and the part that couldn't look away. He began walking toward me, and the crowd parted. Not consciously, perhaps, but parted nonetheless. Self-preservation disguised as politeness. You look pale, he said when he reached me. His voice was low enough that only I could hear, intimate, in the worst way. Smile. I'm not your puppet. No. His hand found the small of my back, warm through the silk. You're my wife. Act like it. I wanted to throw the champagne in his face. I wanted to scream the truth to every glittering hypocrite in this room that I'd married him to save my mother's life, that I'd signed away my freedom for a surgery bill, that the fairy tale they all whispered about was a cage wrapped in silk and sapphires. Instead, I smiled, because that was the deal. 3 years of smiles and silence in exchange for her life. There, he murmured, something almost soft in his voice. Almost. See? You can be reasonable. I can be whatever you pay me to be. His jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered behind those whiskey eyes, something that looked almost like hurt. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask he wore like armor. Marchetti. The voice came from behind us, loud and jovial in the way of men who've never been told no. Senator Richard Calloway approached with a smile as false as his tan, his wife trailing behind in a cloud of perfume and quiet desperation. Richard. Dante's hand pressed slightly firmer against my back. A warning. A reminder. I see you've recovered from the campaign. 4 million well spent. Calloway laughed, but his eyes slid to me with unconcealed interest. And this must be the mysterious Mrs. Marchetti. I've heard so much about you. Have you? I kept my voice light, pleasant, dead. Only whispers, my dear. Only whispers. His gaze dropped to the sapphires at my throat. Though I must say, the whispers don't do you justice. Be careful, Richard. Dante's voice hadn't changed in pitch or volume, but something in it made the senator go still. That's my wife you're looking at. The warning hung in the air, sharp as broken glass. Calloway laughed again, but it was thinner this time. Nervous. Of course. No offense meant. None taken. Dante smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. Now, if you'll excuse us, I believe my wife promised me a dance. He didn't ask me. He never asked. His hand simply shifted to my waist, and suddenly we were moving toward the dance floor, and I was powerless to stop it. I didn't promise you anything, I hissed, as his arms encircled me. You promised me 3 years. 2 more months. Then I'm gone. He pulled me closer, his lips brushing my ear as the orchestra swelled around us. "Is that what you think?" My blood went cold. That was the deal. Deals change, Tesoro. His hand splayed across my lower back, possessive. "Certain. You should know by now I never let go of what's mine." Before I could respond, a sharp crack split the air. Then the screaming started. The chandelier above us shattered in an explosion of crystal and light, and Dante's body slammed into mine, throwing us both to the ground as the world dissolved into chaos and blood, and the terrible certainty that nothing would ever be the same. His weight pinned me to the marble floor, his heartbeat hammering against my chest. "Stay down," he growled. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't argue, because somewhere in the screaming darkness, I'd seen what no one else had. The shooter wasn't aiming at Dante. He was aiming at me. Blood on marble. That's what I remembered most clearly. Not the screaming. Not the chaos of bodies scrambling for exits like panicked animals. Not even the weight of Dante's body crushing me against the cold floor. Just the blood. Dark and spreading, inches from my face, belonging to someone I'd never know. "Move!" Dante's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. "Now." His hand wrapped around my arm, hauling me upright before I could process the command. My heels slipped in something wet. I refused to look down, and then we were running, not toward the exits where everyone else stampeded, but deeper into the ballroom, toward a service corridor I'd never noticed before. Of course he knew about it. Dante Marchetti knew every shadow in every room he entered. It was how men like him stayed alive. The corridor was narrow and dimly lit, smelling of industrial cleaner and old wine. My lungs burned. The silk of my gown tore as I stumbled. But Dante didn't slow down. His grip on my arm was iron, pulling me forward with a singular focus that terrified me almost as much as the gunshot had. "Who was it?" I gasped. "Who's trying to kill you?" He stopped so abruptly I slammed into his back. When he turned, his face was carved from something older than anger, something primal and cold. Not me. His eyes searched mine, and I saw something there I'd never seen before. Fear, not for himself. "They were shooting at you. That's impossible." I saw the angle, the trajectory. His hands came up to grip my shoulders, steadying me or himself, I couldn't tell. "Someone wants you dead, Sarah. Why?" My name in his mouth. Not Tesoro, not wife, but Sarah. It hit me somewhere deep and unexpected, a crack in walls I'd spent 3 years building. "I don't know," my voice cracked. "I'm nobody. I'm just your convenient lie. You're not—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. Whatever he'd been about to say died behind his teeth. "We need to move. My men are securing the exits, but whoever did this had inside access. We can't trust anyone here." He pulled me forward again, but gentler now. His thumb traced an unconscious circle against my wrist as we walked, and I hated how that small touch made my pulse jump. 3 years of cold dinners and colder silences. 3 years of performing the role of devoted wife, while he conducted business I was never allowed to see. 3 years of hating him for what he'd taken from me. And suddenly, his hand on my wrist felt like the only real thing in the world. Stockholm Syndrome, I told myself. That's all this is. But my heart wasn't listening. We emerged into an underground parking structure, where a black Mercedes waited with its engine running. A man I recognized as Marco Dante's second, his shadow, his weapon stood by the driver's door, scanning the darkness with a gun in his hand. "Clear?" Dante asked. "For now." Marco's eyes flickered to me. Unreadable. "She's hit." "What?" Dante spun toward me, and his hands were on my face before I could react, tilting my head, searching. "Where? Sarah, where are you hurt?" "I'm not." But then I felt it. A warm trickle down my temple, disappearing into my hairline. I touched it, and my fingers came away red. I didn't feel it. Adrenaline. His voice had changed. Softer. Almost human. "It's just a graze. The glass, probably." He pressed his handkerchief to my temple with a tenderness that didn't belong to the man I knew. The man who'd bought me like property. The man who'd made it clear I was an asset. Nothing more. "Why do you care?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Dante went still. His hand remained pressed against my wound, but something shifted in his expression, something raw and quickly buried. "Get in the car." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." He opened the rear door, gesturing sharply. "Now, Sierra, before whoever just tried to kill you realizes they missed." I climbed in, and he slid in beside me. The car was moving before the door fully closed, Marco navigating the underground structure with dangerous speed. Dante didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, his profile harsh in the flickering light, his jaw so tight I could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. "I have enemies," he said finally. "That's not news. But none of them would target you. You're not part of my business. You're not a threat to anyone. Then why? That's what I intend to find out." He turned to me then, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. "Is there anything you haven't told me? Anyone from your past who might want you hurt?" My past. A string of meaningless jobs and mounting debts. A dying mother and a desperate daughter. Nothing worth killing over. "No," I whispered. "I'm exactly who you think I am. A nobody you bought to play pretend." Something flickered across his face. Pain? Guilt? Gone before I could name it. "You were never a nobody." His voice was so quiet I almost missed it. "I need you to understand that." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and whatever he saw made his entire body go rigid. "What is it?" He didn't answer. He showed me. A photograph. Me, walking out of my mother's care facility 3 days ago. Another of me at the coffee shop near the penthouse. A third of me sleeping in my own bed, taken through a window I'd thought was secure. And beneath the photos, a single message. "She was never yours to keep. The debt isn't paid. Return what was taken, or we take her piece by piece." The phone trembled in my hands. Or maybe that was me. "I don't understand." My voice sounded far away. "What debt? What did I take?" Dante's eyes met mine, and in them I saw something I'd never expected. He didn't know either. "Marco," he said, his voice dropping into something lethal. "Get me Enzo Caruso on the line. Now." "Boss, Caruso's been dead for 6 years." "I know." Dante's hand closed over mine, steadying. "That's the problem." The safe house smelled of dust and forgotten time. It was a brownstone in a neighborhood I didn't recognize, tucked between buildings that looked abandoned but probably weren't. The kind of place that existed off every map, where men like Dante stored their secrets and their sins. I sat on a leather couch that had seen better decades, still wearing the blood-stained navy gown, the sapphires cold against my throat. Dante stood at the window, his back to me, phone pressed to his ear as he conducted conversations in rapid Italian I could barely follow. "Caruso, debito, sangue." Caruso, debt, blood. The words circled my mind like vultures. "I need to call my mother." My voice sounded strange in the silence between his calls. "She'll worry if I don't." "Already handled." He didn't turn around. "My people contacted the facility. She's been told you're traveling for a charity event. She's safe." "Safe." The word felt like a lie wrapped in silk. "How can you be sure? If someone's been watching me." "Because I've had guards on her since the day we married." Now he turned, and the look on his face stole my next breath. "Did you think I'd leave her unprotected? That I'd hold your mother's life as leverage and not ensure she stayed alive?" I opened my mouth, closed it. 3 years of assumptions crumbling like wet paper. "You never told me. You never asked." He moved toward the bar cart in the corner, pouring whiskey into 2 glasses with hands that were perfectly steady. "You were so busy hating me. You never wondered if I might be more than the monster you needed me to be." He held out a glass. I took it, and our fingers brushed a spark of warmth in all this cold. "I had reasons to hate you. I know." He sat across from me, elbows on his knees, the whiskey untouched in his hands. "I gave you those reasons. Deliberately. Why?" The question hung between us, heavy as smoke. Dante stared into his glass like it held answers he wasn't sure he wanted to find. "Because wanting you was dangerous." His voice dropped to something barely audible. "Because if you hated me, you'd keep your distance. And if you kept your distance, you'd stay safe from what I am, what I do." My heart was doing something painful against my ribs. "And now? Now someone's found you anyway." He looked up, and the mask he always wore was cracking at the edges. "And I don't know how." Enzo Caruso ran the docks before I consolidated power. Small operation. Petty crimes. He died owing money to half the families in the city. What does that have to do with me? That's what I'm trying to understand. Dante set down his glass and reached into his jacket, pulling out a photograph I hadn't seen before. This was with the message, hidden in the metadata. He handed it to me, and the room tilted sideways. It was a woman. Dark hair. My eyes, my mother's smile. But it wasn't me. "Who is this?" I don't know, but she's wearing something that suggests she mattered to someone powerful. He pointed to the woman's hand, where a ring caught the light. A ruby surrounded by black diamonds, set in an unusual twisted band. That's a Caruso family ring, only given to wives. My mother was never… I stopped. The words felt wrong even as I said them. She would have told me. Would she? I thought of my mother. Her silences. The way she flinched at certain sounds, car backfires, doors slamming, men's raised voices. How she never spoke about my father, only saying he was gone before I was born. Some questions have teeth, Piccola, she'd told me once, when I was 9 and demanding answers. They bite the ones who ask them. There has to be a mistake. But my voice wavered. I grew up with nothing. Food stamps and hand-me-downs. If my mother was connected to any family, then she ran. Dante's eyes were intent on my face, reading every micro-expression. She took you and disappeared, changed her name maybe, built a new life, and whatever she took with her, someone's finally come to collect. The photograph trembled in my hands. I studied the woman's face, the ghost of my own features staring back at me across decades. If this is true, I whispered, then my whole life is a lie. Welcome to my world. I looked up, startled by the dark humor in his voice. Dante's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. We all build our identities on foundations we didn't choose, he said. I inherited an empire of blood. You inherited whatever secret your mother buried. The only question that matters now is what you do with the truth. I don't even know what the truth is. Then we find it. Together, he reached out, and his hand covered mine where I clutched the photograph. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places. The hands of a man who did more than give orders. Why? I searched his face for the manipulation, the angle, the trap. You could hand me over. End this. Protect yourself. I could. His thumb traced across my knuckles, featherlight. But I won't. That's not an answer. No. Something shifted in his gaze, something raw and terrifying and real. It isn't. The air between us grew thick. I became aware of how close he was, how his breath stirred the loose strands of hair at my temple, how his eyes dropped to my mouth for just a fraction of a second. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment like glass. He answered with a sharp, "What?" I watched his face as he listened, watched the color drain from his skin, watched his grip tighten on the phone until his knuckles went white. "When?" he demanded. "Then. Don't move the body. I'm coming." He hung up and looked at me with eyes that had gone flat and cold. They found Enzo Caruso's widow. His voice was hollow. "She's been dead for 6 years too, buried under a different name." He paused. "Her name was Elena Vasquez." The room spun. Vasquez. My mother's maiden name. The morgue was cold in a way that seeped into bone. I stood behind a glass partition, watching Dante speak with a medical examiner whose face I couldn't see clearly through the frost of my own breath. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly green pallor that made the living look dead, and the dead look like wax sculptures. Elena Vasquez, Enzo Caruso's widow. My aunt, if the documents Dante's people had unearthed in the last 3 hours were accurate. My mother's sister, a sister she'd never once mentioned in 30 years of my existence. The betrayal of it sat in my chest like a stone. She was found in a shallow grave upstate. Marco appeared beside me, his voice low and clinical. 6 years ago, identified as a Jane Doe, buried in a county plot. Someone recently flagged her dental records in a federal database. That's what triggered the alert. Why now? That's what the boss is trying to figure out. Marco's eyes remained fixed on Dante through the glass. Whoever sent those photos, they wanted us to find her. They're leading us somewhere. Into a trap. Probably. He said it without inflection, like traps were just another Tuesday. But Marchetti doesn't walk away from threats. He walks through them. I watched Dante lean over the examiner's table, studying something I couldn't see. His shoulders were rigid beneath his coat, tension radiating from every line of his body. But his hands were steady. Always steady. He's different than I thought. The words escaped before I could catch them. Marco's gaze slid to me, unreadable. He's exactly what he needs to be. For the family, for the business. A pause. For you. I'm not his family. I'm barely his wife. You're the only thing he protects without being asked. Marco turned away, heading toward the morgue's exit. That makes you more than you know. Before I could respond, Dante emerged through the steel doors. His face was carved from granite, but his eyes, when they found mine, held something almost gentle. "It's her," he said quietly. "The dental records match. Elena Vasquez Caruso, dead 6 years." He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the cold clinging to his coat. "There's something else. Tell me." "She was pregnant when she died. 3rd trimester." His jaw tightened. The child wasn't recovered with the body. The implications crashed over me like freezing water. A missing child, a secret pregnancy. A woman who shared my mother's blood, buried in an unmarked grave while someone raised her baby somewhere else. Or didn't. "You think—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "I don't think anything yet." Dante's hand came up to cup my elbow, steadying me when I hadn't realized I was swaying. "But we need to talk to your mother. Tonight. She's fragile. Her heart—" "I know." His voice softened in a way I'd never heard. "But someone's killing people connected to the Caruso family, and you're standing in their crosshairs. Your mother is the only one who can tell us why." He was right. I hated that he was right. The drive to the care facility took 40 minutes. Dante sat beside me in the back of the Mercedes, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. He hadn't spoken since the morgue, but his presence was a strange comfort, solid and certain, in a world that had lost all its edges. "I used to dream about my father," I said into the silence. "When I was little, I'd imagine him coming back, explaining why he left. In my head, he was always kind, gentle. Nothing like—" I stopped myself, but Dante finished the thought. "Nothing like me. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." He turned to look at me, and the city lights sliding past the window painted shadows across his face. "You imagined a good man, a soft man, someone who would save you with tenderness instead of teeth. Is that so wrong?" "No." His gaze dropped to my mouth, then away. "But soft men don't survive my world, and they can't protect the people they love. Love." The word hung between us, unexplored and dangerous. "Do you?" I whispered. "Love anyone?" Dante was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough, as if the words had to be dragged from somewhere deep. I didn't think I was capable. His hand found mine in the darkness between us, fingers intertwining. Then I met a woman who hated me so fiercely I couldn't look away, who fought me at every turn, who made me want to be the soft man, even knowing I could never become him. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain he could hear it. "Dante, we're here." Marco's voice cut through from the front seat, and the moment shattered. The care facility rose before us, warm light spilling from its windows. Normal, safe. Everything my life no longer was. Dante released my hand, but his eyes held mine for one more heartbeat. "Whatever we find in there," he said, "we face it together. Understood?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. We found my mother in her usual chair by the window, a book open in her lap, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when I entered, and her face transformed with joy, then froze when she saw Dante behind me. "Serafina." Her voice cracked. "What's wrong? Why are you—" "Mama." I knelt before her, taking her thin hands in mine. "I need to ask you something. About Elena." The color drained from her face. Her hands began to tremble. "Where did you hear that name?" "She's dead, Mama. She's been dead for 6 years. And someone is using her death to come after me." I squeezed her fingers, desperate. "Please, I need the truth. Who was Elena Caruso? Who was my father? What are you hiding?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. She looked past me to Dante, then back to my face, and something in her expression crumbled. "I tried to protect you," she whispered. "I tried to keep you away from that world." "What world?" She closed her eyes, drew a shaking breath. "Your father wasn't a ghost, Piccola." Her voice broke. "He was a monster. And you were never meant to exist. You were never meant to exist." The words echoed in my skull as rain streaked down the windows of the safe house. 3 hours since my mother's confession. 3 hours since my entire identity had unraveled like thread pulled from a hem. I sat on the floor of the bathroom, knees drawn to my chest, still wearing the ruined navy gown. The sapphires lay discarded on the sink, glittering accusingly under the harsh light. My mother's voice haunted me. "Your father was Enzo Caruso's brother, Vittorio. He was cruel in ways you cannot imagine, Piccola. When I discovered I was pregnant, Elena helped me escape. She gave me money, documents, a new name. She saved us both. But someone found out. Someone always finds out. Elena paid the price for helping me, and now, she hadn't been able to finish. The nurses had rushed in when her heart monitor started screaming, pushing us out while they stabilized her. Dante had driven me back to the safe house in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Now he was somewhere in the brownstone, making calls, pulling strings, doing whatever men like him did when the world caught fire. And I was hiding in a bathroom, trying to remember how to breathe. A knock at the door. Soft, almost hesitant. "Sarah." I didn't answer. "I'm coming in." The door opened, and Dante stood in the threshold, his jacket discarded, his sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked almost human like this, almost vulnerable. He didn't speak. He simply crossed the small space and lowered himself to the floor beside me, his back against the tub, his shoulder brushing mine. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. "I don't know who I am anymore." My voice came out cracked and hollow. Everything I believed about my life, my father, my mother, my history, it's all lies. I'm the daughter of a monster, the niece of a dead woman I never knew, the target of people who want me erased for sins I didn't commit. "You're Serafina." Dante's voice was quiet but certain. "You're stubborn and sharp and stronger than you know. That hasn't changed." "How can you say that? You don't even know me." "I know you better than you think." He turned his head, and his eyes found mine in the dim light. "I've watched you for 3 years. Watched you bite your tongue when you wanted to scream. Watched you smile for crowds when you were dying inside. Watched you carry the weight of your mother's illness alone, refusing help you were too proud to accept. You were my jailer, not my confidant. I was your shield." Something raw flickered across his face. "Every time a rival family asked about you, I told them you were nothing, a convenience, a pretty face to parade at events. I made them believe you were beneath notice, beneath interest, because the moment they saw what I saw." He stopped, his jaw clenched. "What do you see?" I whispered. Dante reached out, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from my face. The touch was feather-light, achingly gentle from hands that had done terrible things. "Fire," he said. "Burning so bright it terrifies me." The air between us shifted, charged. I became aware of how close he was, how his breath stirred against my cheek, how his eyes had darkened to something molten. "This is a terrible idea," I breathed. "The worst." His thumb traced along my jaw, tilting my face toward his. "Tell me to stop." I should have. Every rational thought screamed at me to push him away, to remember what he was, what he'd done, why I'd spent 3 years building walls against exactly this moment. But the walls were ash now, and I was so tired of being cold. "I don't want you to stop." He kissed me like a man drowning. His mouth claimed mine, with a desperation that stole my breath, his hands cradling my face like I was something precious, something sacred. I tasted whiskey and want, and years of restrained hunger finally unleashed. I kissed him back with equal ferocity, my fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, erasing the distance I'd fought so hard to maintain. His groan vibrated against my lips as he pulled me onto his lap, my ruined gown pooling around us like spilled ink. "Sarah." My name was a prayer in his mouth. "I've wanted God. I know." I pressed my forehead to his, both of us breathing hard. "I know." His hands trembled where they gripped my waist. Trembled. This man who commanded armies and ended lives without flinching trembling for me. "This changes everything," he said roughly. "Everything already changed." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "The moment that bullet shattered the chandelier, the old rules died. We're in something new now, something neither of us can control." "I don't lose control." But even as he said it, his grip tightened, pulling me impossibly closer. "Maybe it's time you learned." He kissed me again, softer this time, a question instead of a claim. I answered by melting into him, letting myself fall into the warmth I'd denied myself for so long. We stayed tangled together on that bathroom floor as the rain hammered against the windows and the night stretched endless around us. His heartbeat was steady beneath my palm. His arms were a fortress I'd never known I needed. For the first time in 3 years, I felt safe. Then his phone rang. Dante answered with a sharp exhale, not releasing me. But as he listened, I felt his body go rigid, felt the warmth drain from his skin. "Where?" His voice was ice. "How many survivors?" "Survivors." I pulled back, searching his face. What I saw there made my blood freeze. "We're coming." He hung up and looked at me with eyes that had gone flat and terrible. Your mother's facility was attacked. 20 minutes ago. 12 dead, including 4 of my guards. My mother. Missing. His hands gripped my shoulders, anchoring me. They took her. Sierra. Whoever wants you, they have her now. The scream that tore from my throat didn't sound human. Neither did the vow I made in its wake. I destroyed the bathroom mirror with my bare fist. The glass shattered into 100 fractured reflections, each one showing a woman I didn't recognize, wild-eyed, blood dripping from her knuckles, navy silk torn and stained. Dante caught my wrist before I could strike again, pulling me against his chest as I fought him. "Let me go." I clawed at his arms. "Let me go. I have to find her. I have to. You're bleeding." His voice was steady, impossibly calm. "Stop. Breathe. I can't breathe. They have her. They have my mother, and it's my fault. I brought you to her. I led them right to. They were watching long before tonight." His arms tightened around me, absorbing my thrashing until exhaustion won. This was planned, coordinated. The attack at the gala was a distraction. I sagged against him, all the fight draining out of me. "Then what was the point? Why shoot at me if they wanted her? To flush you out. To see who would protect you and how." Dante's chin rested on the top of my head. "They're testing our defenses, learning our patterns. This isn't random violence, Sarah. It's strategy." "Whose strategy?" "That's what we need to find out." He released me slowly, keeping one hand on my elbow as he guided me to the sink. Water ran pink as he rinsed my torn knuckles, his touch clinical but careful. "Your mother mentioned Vittorio Caruso," he said quietly. "My father killed him, 15 years ago." I looked up sharply. "What?" "A territory dispute. Vittorio was expanding into our ports, making moves against our shipping operations. My father handled it the way Marchettas handle everything." Dante's jaw tightened. "I was 17. I watched it happen." The image formed unbidden, a teenage Dante, watching his father execute a man. The man whose blood ran through my veins. "So my father was your enemy. Your father was a rabid dog who beat women and sold children." Dante's eyes met mine, unflinching. "Whatever else my family has done, ending Vittorio Caruso was justice. I won't apologize for it. I should have felt something. Grief, maybe. Or anger. But there was only a hollow echo where those emotions should have been." "I never knew him," I said. "I can't mourn a monster I never met." "Then don't." Dante finished wrapping my hand in gauze, his fingers lingering against my palm. "Mourn the father you deserved. Hate the one you got. But don't let his ghost define you." "Is that what you do? With your father?" Something flickered across his face, pain, quickly buried. "My father was complicated, brutal when necessary, tender when no one was watching. He released my hand. He taught me to kill before I learned to drive. But he also sat by my bed when I was sick, reading me stories in Italian until I fell asleep." "Do you miss him?" "Every day." Dante stepped back, reaching for his phone. "Which is why I understand what you're feeling right now, and why I swear to you, on his grave, that we will get your mother back." The conviction in his voice cracked something open in my chest. This man, this dangerous, ruthless, terrifying man, was the only anchor I had left. "Why do you care so much?" The question emerged raw and desperate. 3 years of pretending I didn't exist. 3 years of cold silence in separate bedrooms and treating me like furniture. And now suddenly, you're kissing me in bathrooms and swearing oaths on your father's grave. What changed? Dante went still. For a long moment, he simply looked at me, and the walls behind his eyes, the ones I'd always assumed were impenetrable, began to crumble. Nothing changed. His voice was rough. "I've been fighting this since the day you walked into my office, drowning in a dress 2 sizes too big, demanding to negotiate terms like you had any power at all. I was terrified. I know. Your hands were shaking so badly you could barely hold the pen." A ghost of a smile crossed his lips, but your eyes never wavered. You looked at me like you were memorizing a target, and I thought, this woman is going to destroy me. I wanted to. I know that too. He moved closer, erasing the distance between us. Every cold dinner, every cruel silence, every time I let you believe I didn't care. I did it because wanting you was a weakness I couldn't afford. Because in my world, love is a blade your enemies use to cut your throat. And now? Now they already know. His hands came up to frame my face, thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized I was crying. Now they've taken your mother to hurt you, to hurt me, through you. The secret's out, Sarah, so I might as well stop pretending. He kissed my forehead. Soft, reverent. I might as well admit that you're the only thing in this godforsaken life that I would burn the world to protect. A sob broke from my throat. I buried my face in his chest, letting 3 years of isolation and resentment and loneliness pour out of me while he held me steady. We'll find her, he murmured into my hair. I promise. How? I have resources, contacts, people who owe me debts they'd rather die than default on. His voice hardened. And I have a name. Someone who knew Vittorio. Someone who might know who's pulling these strings. Who? Before he could answer, the safehouse door burst open downstairs. Shouts erupted Marco's voice, sharp with alarm, and others I didn't recognize. Dante shoved me behind him, a gun appearing in his hand so fast I didn't see him draw it. Heavy footsteps on the stairs. Then Marco appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Boss, you need to see this. What is it? Marco held up a phone, the screen illuminated with a video already playing. A dark room, a chair in the center. And in that chair, bound and gagged, her face bruised and her eyes wild with terror, my mother. A figure stepped into frame. Male. Middle-aged. A face I recognized from the photograph Dante had shown me. Enzo Caruso. The dead man smiled at the camera. Hello, Dante. I believe you have something that belongs to me. The video played on loop in my mind, long after Marco took the phone away. Enzo Caruso. Alive. Older than the photographs, with gray threading through his dark hair and new scars mapping his face but unmistakably, impossibly alive. 6 years. Dante paced the length of the safehouse living room, his composure finally cracking. 6 years we believed him dead. Dental records, DNA confirmation, a body in the ground. Someone faked it, Marco said grimly. Paid off the coroner, planted evidence. Caruso's been hiding in plain sight. Where? We're working on it. The video was routed through 17 different servers. But we'll find him. I sat motionless on the couch, my bandaged hand throbbing in time with my heartbeat. My mother's face kept flashing before me, the terror in her eyes, the bruise blooming across her cheekbone, the gag cutting into the corners of her mouth. I believe you have something that belongs to me. He means me. My voice sounded distant, hollow. I'm what belongs to him, his brother's daughter, Caruso blood. Dante stopped pacing. You don't belong to anyone. Tell that to the man holding my mother hostage. Sarah, he'll trade her for me. That's what this is. That's what it's always been. I stood, my legs unsteady but my resolve hardening into something cold and certain. Give him what he wants. Give him me. Absolutely not. She's dying, Dante. My voice cracked. Her heart is failing. She can't survive this kind of stress, and every minute she spends in that room. I said no. He crossed to me in 3 strides, gripping my shoulders. I am not handing you over to a man who faked his own death and murdered his own wife. Whatever he wants with you, it's not a family reunion. Then what? What possible use could he have for me? I don't know yet, but we're going to find out. His grip softened, his thumbs tracing circles against my collarbones. Together. Remember? I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that his resources and ruthlessness would be enough to save my mother before it was too late. But the video kept playing in my head. The bruises on her face, the fear in her eyes. I can't lose her. The words escaped as a whisper. She's all I have. That's not true anymore. Dante's forehead pressed against mine. You have me, whether you want me or not. Dante, I know I've given you no reason to trust me. I know I spent 3 years building walls instead of bridges. But I'm asking you now, give me time. Give me a chance to fix this, before you throw yourself on a grenade. The rawness in his voice undid something in me. This man who commanded death with a word, begging me for time, for trust. 48 hours, I said. If we don't have her back by then, I'm making the trade myself. His jaw clenched, but he nodded. 48 hours. The next day and a half passed in a blur of tension and sleepless nights. Dante's network spread across the city like a spider's web, pulling at threads of information. Caruso had been spotted in 3 different boroughs over the past 6 years, always briefly, always vanishing before anyone could confirm the sighting. He'd built a ghost empire in the shadows, recruiting men loyal only to money and revenge. He blames your family for his brother's death, Marco reported during one of the endless strategy sessions. Vittorio was killed by your father. Yes, but Caruso believes the Marchettis orchestrated it. Used Vittorio as a pawn to start a war, then eliminated him when he became inconvenient. That's not what happened, Dante said flatly. Doesn't matter what happened. Matters what he believes. Marco pulled up a map on his tablet. We've narrowed his location to 3 possible sites. Warehouses, all of them. Abandoned but recently retrofitted with power. Then we hit all 3 simultaneously. With what manpower? Half our soldiers are compromised. The gala attack exposed informants we didn't know we had. Then use the men we trust. Whatever it takes. I listened to them plan, my mind racing through calculations of its own. 48 hours was almost up, and despite all their efforts, my mother was still in Caruso's hands. That night, I made my decision. I waited until Dante finally succumbed to exhaustion. His body sprawled across the couch, his gun within arm's reach, even in sleep. His face looked younger in the dim light, softer, almost peaceful. I memorized every line of it. Then I slipped out the back door. Marco's tablet was still on the kitchen table where he'd left it. The 3 warehouse addresses glowed on the screen. I photographed them with the burner phone I'd stolen from Dante's jacket, then sent a message to the number embedded in Caruso's video. I'm coming. Alone. Release her when you have me. The response came within seconds. Pier 17. 1 hour. Any tricks and she dies screaming. The rain had returned, cold and relentless, as I walked through streets that felt like they belonged to another lifetime. The sapphires were gone, the ruined gown replaced with borrowed clothes from the safe house. I was nobody now, just a woman walking toward her own destruction. Pier 17 loomed out of the darkness, a skeleton of rusted metal and rotting wood. A single light burned in the warehouse at its end. I walked toward it. The door opened before I could knock. 2 men flanked me immediately, patting me down for weapons, finding none. They led me inside. And there he was. Enzo Caruso sat behind a makeshift desk, looking like a king in exile. He rose when he saw me, and his smile made my skin crawl. Serafina. He said my name like a prayer. You look so much like your father. Where's my mother? Safe, for now. He circled me slowly, studying me like a specimen. Do you know why I've spent 6 years hunting you? Why I destroyed my own life, let the world believe me dead, all to find one insignificant girl? Tell me. He stopped in front of me, his eyes burning with something between madness and triumph. Because, my dear niece, you're worth $300 million. $300 million. The number hung in the air between us, impossible and obscene. You're insane, I breathed. I grew up on food stamps. My mother worked double shifts at a laundromat until her heart gave out. We never had. Your mother was a thief. Caruso's voice sharpened. A clever one, I'll admit. But a thief nonetheless. He gestured to one of his men, who produced a worn leather folder. Inside were documents, bank statements, property deeds, corporate filings, all bearing names I didn't recognize. Vittorio wasn't just muscle. He was the family's accountant. Every dollar we ever earned, every property we ever acquired, every offshore account and shell company, it all funneled through him. Caruso's jaw tightened. When he died, the access codes died with him, or so we thought. I don't understand. Your mother understood perfectly. He threw a photograph onto the desk. My mother, young and beautiful, standing beside a man whose face I'd never seen. My father. She was his mistress for 3 years, long enough to learn his secrets, long enough to steal his ledger. Ledger? A record of every account, every password, every hidden fortune Vittorio managed. Caruso leaned closer, his breath hot against my face. When she ran, she took it with her. And when Elena tried to help her escape, I made sure my darling wife paid for her betrayal. Nausea rolled through me. You killed your own wife. She chose her side. His voice held no remorse. Just as your mother chose hers. Even if this ledger exists, I don't have it. I've never seen it, but your mother has. Caruso smiled. And now I have her, which means I have leverage. He snapped his fingers, and a door opened at the far end of the warehouse. 2 men dragged my mother into the light, her frail body sagging between them. Her eyes found mine, and the terror in them nearly broke me. Mama, don't. Caruso's hand closed around my arm, yanking me back. The terms are simple. Your mother tells me where she hid the ledger, and you both walk away. She refuses, and I start removing pieces of you until she changes her mind. I don't know where it is, my mother gasped. I destroyed it years ago. There's nothing left to find. Liar! Caruso's voice went cold. He pulled a knife from his belt, the blade catching the dim light. Perhaps you need motivation. He moved toward me, and I understood with terrible clarity what was about to happen. Then the wall exploded. The blast threw me sideways, debris raining down as smoke and chaos consumed the warehouse. Gunfire erupted, sharp staccato bursts that echoed off the metal walls. I crawled through the wreckage, ears ringing, searching desperately for my mother. "Sarah!" Dante's voice cut through the pandemonium. I looked up to see him striding through the smoke like a dark angel of vengeance, his gun dropping Caruso's men with mechanical precision. His eyes found mine, blazing with fury and relief. "Get to your mother," he commanded. "Now." I scrambled across the floor to where she'd fallen, gathering her fragile body against mine. Her heartbeat was erratic, her breathing shallow, but she was alive. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Piccola. I never wanted." "Later." I pressed my hand over her mouth. "Stay quiet. Stay still." The gunfire intensified. I watched Dante move through the carnage with lethal grace, flanked by Marco and a dozen men I didn't recognize. Caruso's soldiers fell one by one, their screams swallowed by the roar of battle. Then I saw Caruso himself, staggering toward a back exit, his knife still clutched in his bloody hand. Something primal ignited in my chest. I left my mother in the shadows and ran. Caruso heard me coming. He spun, the knife arcing toward my throat. I ducked under the swing, momentum carrying me into his body. We crashed through a rotted doorway onto the pier, rain lashing down as we grappled for control. "Stupid girl." He backhanded me across the face, stars exploding behind my eyes. "You could have walked away, could have lived a quiet life, never knowing what you were worth. I'm not worth anything to you." I spat blood onto the weathered boards. "I'm not your property. I'm not your leverage. I'm not a Caruso. Blood doesn't lie. Then neither does this." I drove my knee into his groin with every ounce of strength I possessed. He crumpled with a howl, and the knife clattered from his grip. I grabbed it before he could recover, the handle slick with rain and blood. "Sarah, don't." Dante's voice behind me. I didn't turn. Caruso looked up at me through the downpour, his face twisted with pain and rage. "Go ahead. Kill me. Prove you're exactly like your father." The knife trembled in my hand. Every muscle in my body screamed for blood, for revenge, for justice, for an end to the nightmare he'd created. But I thought of my mother's face. Her gentle hands, the way she'd sacrificed everything to keep me from becoming what he was. I threw the knife into the harbor. "I'm nothing like him," I said. "And I'm nothing like you." Caruso laughed a wet, ugly sound. "You think mercy makes you better? It makes you weak. It makes you—" The gunshot silenced him. I spun to see Dante lowering his weapon, his expression carved from stone. Caruso slumped onto the pier, a perfect hole in the center of his forehead, his eyes already glazing over. "I'm not weak," Dante said quietly. "And neither is she, but I am finished listening to you." He holstered the gun and crossed to me, his hands cupping my face, searching for damage. "Are you hurt? Did he—" "I'm okay." I gripped his wrists, steadying myself against his solid warmth. "My mother. Marco has her. Ambulance is on the way." His thumb brushed the bruise blooming on my cheek. "It's over, Sarah. He's gone." But as I looked into Dante's eyes, I saw something he was trying to hide. A secret. A wound. A truth not yet spoken. "What aren't you telling me?" His jaw tightened. "The ledger. Your mother's confession. Sarah, there's something else." "What?" "You're not Vittorio's only child." The rain kept falling as the world tilted beneath my feet. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and false hope. I sat in a plastic chair outside my mother's room, watching nurses drift past like ghosts in scrubs. Dante stood at the window, his silhouette dark against the gray morning light. Neither of us had spoken since we left the pier. "You're not Vittorio's only child." The words circled my mind like vultures waiting for something to die. "Tell me," I finally said. "All of it. No more secrets." Dante turned from the window. He looked exhausted, the first time I'd ever seen weariness break through his armor. Blood still stained his collar, and a fresh cut marked his jaw where Caruso's men had landed a blow. "When your mother fled Vittorio, she was already pregnant with you." But what she didn't know, what Elena told her only years later, was that Vittorio had another child. A son, born to a woman in Naples 3 years before you. A brother. Half-brother. Dante moved closer, lowering himself into the chair beside mine. His name was Marco Vittorio Caruso. Elena raised him after his mother died in childbirth. When Elena was killed, the boy disappeared. Enzo claimed he died too, another casualty of the family's collapse. But he didn't die. No. Dante's eyes met mine, heavy with a truth I didn't want to hear. He changed his name, built a new identity, buried every trace of who he'd been. The realization crept over me like ice water. Marco. I breathed the name. You're Marco. You're second in command. Dante nodded slowly. I didn't know. I swear to you, Sarah, I've known him for 12 years, and I had no idea who he really was. Not until tonight, when your mother told us about Elena's adopted son. I thought of Marco, his stoic presence, his careful efficiency, the way his eyes had always lingered on me with an intensity I couldn't explain. I'd assumed it was suspicion, distrust, the protectiveness of a loyal soldier toward his boss's inconvenient wife. But it wasn't any of those things. It was recognition. Where is he now? Gone. Dante's jaw tightened. Disappeared during the raid. His phone, his weapons, everything left behind. He wanted us to know he was running. Why would he run? If he's my brother, if he's been watching me this whole time, because he's been playing both sides? Dante's voice hardened. The informants we couldn't identify, the security breaches, the way Caruso always seemed one step ahead. It was Marco, feeding information to his uncle while pretending to hunt him. The betrayal cut deep, even though I'd never known him. A brother I could have had, a family I might have built. All of it twisted into lies and manipulation. He wanted the ledger too, I realized. That's why he stayed close to you. Close to me. $300 million buys a lot of loyalty. And a lot of patience. Dante reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. I'm sorry. I brought him into your life without knowing what he was. You didn't know. I should have. The self-recrimination in his voice was raw. I'm supposed to see threats before they materialize. I'm supposed to protect. Stop. I turned to face him fully, my free hand rising to cup his jaw. You saved my mother. You killed the man who murdered your ally's wife and spent 6 years hunting me. You did everything right, Dante. The fact that Marco fooled you doesn't make you weak. It makes him a monster. His eyes searched mine, looking for absolution I wasn't sure I had the right to give, but I gave it anyway, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that tasted of exhaustion and survival, and something that might have been love. Sarah. He breathed my name against my mouth. I need you to know something. What? The marriage contract. The terms we agreed to. His forehead pressed against mine. I'm releasing you. When this is over, you're free to go. The debt is paid. Your mother's care is covered for life. You don't owe me anything anymore. The words should have felt like liberation. 3 years of captivity, ending with a single sentence. I could walk away. Reclaim my life. Become whoever I wanted to be. So why did my chest ache like something was breaking? What if I don't want to go? Dante pulled back, his expression unreadable. You can't mean that. I spent 3 years hating you because it was easier than admitting the truth. I took a shaking breath. That somewhere in all those cold dinners and silent hallways, I started needing you. Not as a jailer or a husband or a shield. As the only person who ever saw me really saw me and didn't look away. Sarah, I know what you are. I know what you've done. I know that loving you means accepting a darkness most people can't even imagine. Tears spilled down my cheeks, but I didn't wipe them away. But I'm not most people. I'm the daughter of a monster, the niece of a murderer, and apparently the sister of a traitor. Maybe darkness is where I belong. You don't belong in darkness. His voice broke on the words. You belong in light, in safety, in a life that doesn't require bodyguards and blood oaths. Then give me something else. I gripped his hands, pulling him closer. Give me honesty. Give me partnership. Give me a chance to build something real out of all this wreckage. For a long moment, Dante simply stared at me. Then something shifted in his expression. The walls he'd spent a lifetime constructing, crumbling into dust. I love you. The words came out rough, almost painful. I've loved you since you walked into my office in that terrible dress and demanded to negotiate your own enslavement. I will love you until they put me in the ground. And if you want to stay, if you truly want to build something with me, then I will spend every day earning what I don't deserve. I kissed him then, fierce and desperate, and full of promise. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, my mother's doctor appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Marchetti? She's awake. She's asking for you. I looked at Dante. He nodded. Go. I'll be here. But as I walked toward my mother's room, a nurse handed me a folded paper. My name. In handwriting I'd never seen. Sister, this isn't over. The ledger is real. And you're standing on it. You're standing on it. The words burned in my mind as I pushed open my mother's door. She lay against white pillows, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Tubes snaked from her arms, monitors beeped their steady rhythm, and her eyes, those dark eyes that had always held such fierce love, were clouded with exhaustion and secrets too heavy to carry alone. Piccola. Her voice was barely a whisper. You came back to me. I'll always come back. I took her hand, careful of the IV. Mama, I need to ask you something. And this time, I need the whole truth. Her gaze flickered to the folded note still clutched in my other hand. Something ancient and weary passed across her face. Marco found you. You knew about him? Elena told me, before she died. She called me, warned me that Enzo had discovered our escape route, that he was coming for both of us. Tears slipped down her hollowed cheeks. She begged me to take Marco with us, to save her son the way she'd saved you. But I couldn't. I was already running, already terrified, already— It's okay. I squeezed her hand. That's not what I need to know. The ledger. I nodded. My mother closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, I saw a woman I'd never truly known. Not the gentle mother who braided my hair and sang me lullabies. Someone harder. Someone who had survived things I was only beginning to understand. I didn't destroy it. I couldn't, it was my insurance. The only thing keeping us alive all those years. She drew a shaking breath. When you married Dante, I thought we were finally safe. Protected by someone powerful enough that the old ghosts would stay buried. Where is it, Mama? Hidden in plain sight. A ghost of a smile crossed her cracked lips. Vittorio taught me that. The best secrets aren't locked in vaults, they're woven into ordinary things. What things? The sapphires. Her eyes found mine. The Marchetti sapphires Dante gave you on your wedding day. I switched them. My hand rose instinctively to my throat, finding only bare skin. I'd left the necklace at the safe house, discarded on the bathroom sink like a reminder of a life I'd wanted to escape. The gems are real, she continued, but the settings are mine. I had them recreated by a jeweler in Queens, an old friend who owed me favors and asked no questions. Inside each setting is a microchip, encrypted data, every account, every password, every hidden dollar Vittorio ever touched. $300 million. Hanging around my neck for 3 years. And Dante never knew. No one knew. Her grip tightened on my hand. I should have told you. Should have trusted you with the truth. But I thought ignorance would protect you. It almost got us both killed. I know. Fresh tears spilled down her face. I know, Piccola. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was furious at the years of lies, the secrets that had shaped my entire existence. But looking at my mother's broken body, her failing heart, the weight of guilt crushing her like a physical thing, I couldn't hold on to rage. She had done what mothers do, protected her child the only way she knew how. I forgive you, I said softly. But no more lies. Not ever again. She nodded, relief flooding her features. No more lies. I kissed her forehead and left her to rest. The note from Marco still burning in my pocket. Dante was waiting in the corridor, tension radiating from every line of his body. He saw my face and straightened. What is it? The ledger. I know where it is. I told him everything, the sapphires, the microchips, the fortune I'd been wearing like a costume piece for 3 years. His expression shifted through surprise, understanding, and finally something that might have been dark amusement. You've been wearing my family's destruction around your neck since our wedding day. I didn't know. I believe you. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. The necklace is still at the safe house. I'm sending men to retrieve it now. Marco knows, Dante. He left me that note. He's been watching this whole time. Then we need to move faster than he does. The next hours blurred together. Armed convoys, encrypted calls, the controlled chaos of Dante's empire mobilizing for a final confrontation. They found the safe house ransacked, the necklace gone. But Marco had left something behind. A photograph of me and Dante in the bathroom, moments before our first kiss. A message scrawled on the back. You took my family. I'm taking yours. One piece at a time. I stared at the words until they lost all meaning. Then I looked at Dante. He wants war. He has it. Dante's voice was ice and iron. But wars end. And when this one does, there will be nothing left of Marco Caruso but a memory. He's my brother. He's the man who helped orchestrate your kidnapping, your mother's torture, and the assassination attempt that almost killed you. Dante cupped my face in his hands. Blood doesn't make family, Sierra. Choice does. And he's made his choice. I knew he was right. Knew it in my bones. In the scars still healing on my knuckles. In the bruises that painted my body like a map of survival. But somewhere beneath the certainty, grief stirred. For the brother I might have known, the family I might have had, the life that could have been, if only the past had unfolded differently. What happens now? I asked. Now we rebuild. The safe house, the security, the trust that Marco shattered. Dante's thumb traced my cheekbone, and we do it together. As partners, as equals, as husband and wife, if you'll still have me. I answered with a kiss deeper than words, stronger than vows, sealing a promise neither of us needed to speak aloud. When we finally parted, dawn was breaking through the hospital windows. Golden light spilled across the floor, painting everything in shades of hope. Mrs. Marchetti. Dante's voice was soft, reverent. Welcome to the family. I laughed the first real laugh in days. I was already family. No, he pressed his forehead to mine. Before you were a prisoner. Now you're my heart. Outside, the city stirred to life. And somewhere in its shadows, a war was waiting. But so was our future.